If you're a fan of mixed martial arts, MMA, or just someone who's casually heard about UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, you probably know it's the biggest MMA organization on the planet. It's where the toughest fighters from all over the world come to battle inside the octagon, showing insane skills, crazy stamina, and some serious heart. But beyond the exciting fights and dramatic knockouts, there's a lot more happening behind the scenes that most people don't really talk about. So, what's really behind UFC? Let's dive in and uncover the good, the bad, and the controversial parts of this global fighting empire. UFC looks like a dream for any fight fan. The production value is crazy good. The lights, the music, the walkouts, the hype, the commentary, it all feels like a massive show. Big-name fighters become instant stars, getting endorsements, huge paychecks, and legions of fans worldwide. Fighters like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, and Jon Jones didn't just win fights, they became global celebrities. UFC has brought MMA from a niche sport to mainstream entertainment with millions tuning in for every big event. But it's not all champagne and champagne behind all the glam. UFC is also a brutal business. Fighters put their bodies and minds through insane stress, risking serious injury and sometimes their careers every time they step in the cage. Many fans assume these athletes are rolling in cash, but the truth is far more complicated. For most fighters, especially those who aren't champions or big stars, the pay isn't what you'd imagine. Entry-level fighters often make shockingly little per fight, sometimes only a few $1,000s. When you consider the costs of training camps, coaches, nutrition, medical expenses, and travel, it's clear many fighters are struggling financially. The reality? UFC fighters have one of the toughest gigs in sports, grinding hard for relatively little money, especially in the early years. The fighter-UFC relationship, friends or foes. The UFC is run like a business, and its head, Dana White, has a reputation for being a tough, sometimes controversial figure. Fighters have often spoken out about feeling undervalued and underpaid. There have been disputes, contract disagreements, and even some fighters calling out UFC's handling of injuries and fight scheduling. Plus, the UFC controls a lot of what happens. Fighters have limited power. They don't own their own fight footage. They can't just negotiate freely with other organizations, and the UFC controls the matchmaking, deciding who fights who, when and where. This kind of control leads to accusations that the UFC holds too much power over fighters' careers. The dark side. Steroids, politics, and fixes. Like any major sport, UFC hasn't been immune to controversy. Steroid use and performance-enhancing drugs have been a hot topic for years. UFC has an anti-doping program now, but some fans and insiders question how strict or effective it really is. There are whispers about fighters gaming the system or getting special treatment. Some conspiracy theories float around about certain fights being fixed or heavily influenced by politics behind the scenes, especially when big-money pay-per-view events are on the line. While there's no solid proof of match fixing like in some other sports, fans are skeptical about the transparency of some decisions, like referee calls or judging controversies. UFC's global expansion, what it means. UFC isn't just an American thing anymore. It's a global powerhouse now, with events happening worldwide, fighters from every continent, and millions of international fans. This expansion brings more money and more exposure, but also some cultural and business challenges. Different countries have different rules, regulations, and attitudes toward MMA. UFC has to navigate all these to keep growing. It also means some fighters from less developed MMA regions get a chance to shine on the big stage, which is a great thing for the sport's growth. The future, innovation or more of the same? So what's next for UFC? Technology is playing a big role now, with virtual reality, streaming services, and data analytics becoming part of the game. UFC is trying to stay ahead by innovating how fans experience fights and how fighters train. At the same time, there's pressure to improve fighter pay, health protections, and transparency. Fans want to see the sport grow ethically and sustainably. Whether UFC listens and adapts will shape the future of MMA for years to come. Final thoughts. UFC is this crazy mix of athleticism, entertainment, business, and controversy. Behind the jaw-dropping fights and thrilling moments lies a complex world full of tough challenges for fighters, power plays by the organization, and an ever-evolving global sports landscape. If you love UFC, it's important to appreciate both the spectacle and the reality behind it. The fighters pour their hearts and souls into every match, often at great personal cost. And while UFC as a company has built an empire, there's still a lot that fans don't see and maybe should know. So next time you watch a UFC fight, remember, there's way more behind the scenes than just punches and submissions. It's a story of passion, power, money, and sometimes real struggle.